U.S. warships within range of cheap Iranian HEM UAVs push U.S. fleet into a corner with no way out. Hello and welcome to our viewers watching Worldview News. The Strait of Hormuz is heating up by the hour. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran are no longer just verbal warnings, they have turned into a real confrontation in the air and at sea. U.S. warships present in this area are no longer symbols of absolute power, they have been placed on high alert against a completely new form of attack. Swarms of cheap, small but dense and unpredictable UAVs. There are no thunderous explosions of classic naval battles, but the pressure is increasing in a far more dangerous way. Iran has not chosen a head-on confrontation. Instead, it has created a Cold War of attrition, where every U.S. response drives costs to astronomical levels. Waves of UAVs appear like successive waves, forcing the U.S. fleet to continuously intercept and continuously deplete its resources. The balance lies not only in firepower but in the ability to endure in a war without end. As the attack tempo does not slow, pressure gradually turns into a strategic stranglehold. The Strait of Hormuz is therefore not just a waterway but is becoming a survival test for a superpower's strength. The centuries bluff, making the U.S. lose ground without sinking a single ship. The Strait of Hormuz is becoming a unique battlefield, where the balance of power is being reversed in a way that startles Western military circles. No exploding U.S. warships, no images of a fleet wiped from the sea, yet pressure is tightening on Washington day by day. This is a war where damage is not measured in sunken hulls but in eroded budget numbers. Instead of directly confronting America's massive naval power, Tehran has chosen a cold, precise path, pushing its opponent into a maze of attrition where every engagement drains resources. A drone worth a few tens of thousands of dollars can draw an interceptor missile worth millions. This disparity is not just a number, it is a strategy. When the attack tempo is maintained continuously, the financial balance begins to tip. Analysts recognize a clear reality: Iran does not need to destroy an aircraft carrier to gain an advantage. It only needs to maintain steady pressure, forcing the opponent to react in the most expensive way possible. Victory will gradually take shape over time. This is a war of endurance, whoever maintains a lower rate of attrition controls the game. The Pentagon has fallen into a dilemma. A strong response sends costs skyrocketing. Reducing interception intensity increases the risk of actual damage. Every choice carries consequences, and that is exactly what Iran is aiming for, a strategic loop that traps the opponent in difficult decisions. The Strait of Hormuz thus becomes a symbol of modern warfare, no longer a contest of destructive blows, but a battle of wits revolving around efficiency and cost. Iran is proving that in this era, whoever controls the tempo of attrition holds the initiative. And as the war drags on, pressure will accumulate, gradually eroding any superpower's strength. Cheap UAVs, a rain of death choking the U.S. fleet. The Strait of Hormuz is flaring up with an attack pattern that forces every military manual to be rewritten. From the sky, waves of Iran's cheap UAVs dive down densely and relentlessly, like a metal rain. A roaring sound tears through the air, pressure mounts, and defense systems are pushed into a state of maximum stress. This is an attack of tempo and quantity, not a single knockout punch. Each UAV costs only tens of thousands of dollars, while each U.S. interception costs several million. This disparity creates a brutal calculation: 100 UAVs shot down means hundreds of millions of dollars burned in a single night. That number continues to swell as attack waves repeat. Iran does not need to destroy all targets, just maintaining steady pressure drains the opponent's cash flow. This tactic carries the hallmark of modern warfare thinking, turning cost into a weapon. Iran proactively pushes the U.S. into reacting in the most expensive way possible. When a UAV swarm arrives, every choice becomes difficult. Full force interception means massive expenditure, reducing intensity opens the door to real damage. Either decision leads to losses, and that loop continues to tighten. Military analysts see a clear truth: Iran has transformed the battlefield from a technological showdown into a war of endurance. The sophistication lies in Tehran exploiting the opponent's very strength to create a weakness. The more advanced the defense system, the higher its operating cost. When forced to operate continuously at high intensity, the financial burden becomes a direct pressure. The Strait of Hormuz thus becomes a testing ground for a new doctrine. One side launches cheap UAV swarms with high production speed, the other uses expensive shields to intercept each target. As time goes on, the balance tips toward whoever manages the cost equation better. Iran is proving that in this war, quantity combined with the right strategy can force a superpower to stagger. The cost war, a trap that leaves the superpower stranded. The Strait of Hormuz has entered its most tense phase as Iran deploys a cold, precise strategy aimed directly at America's wallet. Tehran understands the nature of the game. Military power lies not only in firepower but in the ability to sustain a long-term fight. And here, Iran proactively turns cost into a weapon. Each UAV wave triggers an expensive U.S. response, one interception worth several $million, one night of engagement potentially costing hundreds of millions. As this cycle repeats continuously, total costs escalate at a rate that strains any budget system. Iran does not need to create an immediate knockout blow. They maintain a steady pressure tempo, forcing the opponent to wear itself down through each decision. This is a structural attack. The U.S. is forced to choose between two pressures: absolute fleet safety versus controlling exponentially rising costs. Either choice brings consequences. A strong response burns money fast. Reducing the engagement tempo increases the risk of actual damage. Iran pushes its opponent into a vortex where every direction leads to losses. Analysis indicates the real battlefield has shifted. It is no longer on the waters of the Strait of Hormuz but within the budget sheets in Washington. As each military decision brings financial pressure, the ability to sustain operations becomes the key factor. Iran exploits this very point, turning America's economic advantage into a burden. The cost war thus becomes the central doctrine. One side uses high-tech, high-cost systems, the other deploys cheap, rapidly produced weapons, maintaining continuous pressure. Over time, the balance tips toward whoever better controls the spending flow. Iran is proving that victory in this era comes not just from firepower but from making the opponent pay a higher price for every action. Hybrid monsters, weapons born from the global system itself. The Strait of Hormuz reveals a truth that forces many power centers to reflect. Iran's UAVs have a simple appearance, but inside lies an entire global technology ecosystem, assembled with high precision. They are products of flexible thinking, fully exploiting every loophole in international trade to create weapons that are both cheap, effective, and hard to strangle. Iran has not followed the path of building everything from scratch. Tehran chose a sharper strategy: collect, modify, and integrate. Processors originating from Western markets, sensors taken from Asian civilian supply chains, mechanical components from various countries, all are connected into a complete machine, operating with sufficient stability for the battlefield. This is the hybrid monster that Western experts are forced to acknowledge. Remarkably, Iran's operation of this network is key. Shell companies, commercial transit routes, open markets, all are thoroughly exploited. Civilian goods pass through many transaction layers before reaching engineers, where they are reconfigured, upgraded, and turned into combat tools. Every component bears traces of the global economy, but assembled together, they serve a single purpose. This strategy creates a major advantage. Production becomes flexible, distributed, and difficult to eliminate with a single blow. There is no central factory to bomb, no fixed supply chain to fully blockade. When one link is cut, others quickly replace it, making any containment effort far more complex. The U.S. forced to change the game, from defense to offense. The Strait of Hormuz enters a new tense phase as Washington is forced to pivot strategically. Iran's relentless UAV waves have exposed a critical weakness in the U.S. standard defense model: costs too high, response tempo stretched, effectiveness diminishing over time. The Pentagon shifts focus. The target is no longer each individual UAV in the sky, but the entire ecosystem behind them. The U.S. begins considering strikes on assembly factories, component warehouses, transport routes, and transit networks. This approach is proactive, aiming to cut off supply at its source. However, Iran had already prepared for this scenario. The production system is distributed across multiple layers, stretched over many areas, linked by flexible commercial channels. Each link is replaceable, each route can change direction. This makes any tracking effort complex. Analysts point out that Iran operates a structure not dependent on a fixed center: small-scale assembly facilities, diverse component sources, continuously shifting transit routes. When one point is disrupted, another immediately compensates, maintaining production tempo. This organization makes concentrated strikes less effective than expected.